allow this.
Yes.
Yeah. Say, Mr. Ali.
Mr. Ali Jeffrey, you want to talk?
Thank you for letting me speak. I think having been a part of this online education system since March 2020,
Can you
I
introduce
yes,
yourself?
oh yeah, I am Syed Alizia Jaffrey. I work at the University of Lahore in the Center for Security Strategy and Policy Research. I work with Dr. Abia Akhtar. Um, so I want to make a couple of comments. I have ever since March 2020, I have been using this online education system, and the biggest takeaway, which is a positive one for me in these 4 months, has been how this online system has improved the quality of teaching. As a teacher, as an instructor, one is extra conscious in two things: in putting out his or her best in front of the students, and also developing that sense of empathy with the student. It is important because we as faculty members have understood that students are not in a position to deliver as they could have in the past. So we have gone the extra mile in helping them, and in the process we have done a great deal of service to our own selves, because we have improved our content delivery. We have tried to come up with better readings, online readings, and this is how we have tried to improve our skills. One more important point that I want to make is that our university, uh, when the lockdown happened, after a week, our university came up with a very robust system, the LMS system, which was a very student friendly system. And I was intrigued. We taught in that for about 2.5 months. And when other universities in Pakistan were about to start their classes, we were having our final exams and in the process of, finalizing our results. I was intrigued. I had a word with my chairman in an interview, and much to my surprise, he told me that we saw it coming. As opposed to other universities, we saw it coming, and we had piloted this program some 7 months ago. And this program we intend on continuing even after the pandemic is over. So this is what I, as panelists also pointed out, this is what I think. We are moving towards the hybrid model where this technology will help us reach corners where we were not going before. We at the University of Lahore and CISPR have organized 11 uh, faculty conversations with some of the top-notch officials and academics around the world. It was not possible in the pre-COVID era. We have also organized webinars. Now, webinars, if I were to say, remove all the constrictions of visa, of costs, and of all things. So I think this has been a very rewarding experience for at least people at the University of Lahore. And believe you me, I have found students to be extra attentive when it comes to learning online, and this has helped them improve their skills, and in the process it has helped me, for instance, improve my own relationship with technology, which was not beyond Twitter and Facebook before. So I think this is a win-win for all, but we need to take it on holistically, and it also requires some rethinking on part of our education managers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Ask people to indicate.
Can you please indicate when you want to talk?
Anybody else wants to ask a question?
Yeah. Hemanta, would you like to?
Yes. Well, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. I can hear you.
Well, when you think about online delivery, what came to my mind was this online MOOC courses, massive online open courses offered by number of institutions. Already places like Coursera, Khan Academy, they all offer courses. And from that, most of the institutions can learn and try to develop course material for online delivery. And if you, in a way, if you want to make any real progress, then I think the educators, the people who develop this course material must be given enough training and also given adequate access to various software material that would help them develop this course material. And I would like to know how people learn to edit, this online material, video material, because that's ultimately, it is the video material that people would use to deliver online. So what progress we would be making on that, I'm not really sure. And especially when the 5G technology comes. Now we are using 4G, 3G and 4G. With 5G, we will have better access. And people will be able to use online material very efficiently and at very high speeds. That would be very beneficial. And I think you have to think along those lines in future. Okay. Thank you.
Doctor.
Yes.
Dr. Hemantha Gunatilaka, he was former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Open University of Sri Lanka. How about our Peradeniya friends? Where are you?
Don't think there are any more questions. Nobody else is indicating whether they want to ask.
Ms. Nalini Chidambaram, do you want to speak? Yeah. No. Janaka.
I call it me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah. In fact, I made a comment there because one main problem that many lecturers have encountered, I'm from University of Peradeniya, is, in a classroom, when you have direct eye-to-eye contact, always we get some feedback, not only they tell, but just by looking at their facial expressions and so on, a lot of things are happening. So we have a challenge how we can overcome that situation in an online media. Of course, you can see faces, but there it is not in the same context that we get in a classroom. So we need to think of new technologies or new methods of getting that contact with students. So, for example, sometimes we feel like teaching to an empty room. So we are thinking of methods to overcome that.
Thank you, Janaka.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I have a question to the panel here. Students using digital device for their learning, particularly young students who are, say, up to secondary education. How is the academy going to maintain the attention span of the student during learning?
Yeah, the panelists will address here the question when they, yeah, panelists, do you want to address that question right now or later?
Maybe later.
Also, related to the
same question. So I have another concern. Basically, like students are mostly using their smartphones for connecting with lectures. So then, when you're delivering kind of conducting interactive sessions, and also we are concerned about within the South Asian region. So as earlier explained, like we don't have a strong connectivity and bandwidth issues. So then there's another challenge, like how can we achieve this connectivity issue when we're conducting kind of interactive sessions due to the lack of connectivity, and also as they're using mostly the smartphones.
These are the people who are there. Chandra, are you there?
Yes, I am there.
Yes. What do you think? Yes, I would like to have your view because you are from different, the sector, from industry.
Thank you very much. Actually, I was thinking that we are trying to figure out solutions for the present system that is face-to-face and the connected cognitive, affective, and psychomotor issues that we have in delivering the outcomes that we're expecting. But actually, when we are talking about digital education, we are taking the process of learning from one system to another system. That means a paradigm shift from what we are doing right now. So basically, in that paradigm shift, we need to redefine our outcomes from what we are doing right now, but according to the needs of the post-COVID as well as long-term development needs of our South Asian countries. So I would like the panelists to address that issue. What are those issues that you are thinking are important in terms of the paradigm shift that we're looking at? Because in the context of giving greater access to a larger number of students, and also giving access to a lot of students who are really missing out on education because of the system of national universities who are taking a limited number of students from those qualified into the system. We have a much greater responsibility and a possibility of giving an opportunity to a larger audience, larger number of students to get a better education and get qualified and to develop a career using their learning rather than what we are doing right now. What we are doing right now is we are throwing some education in the face-to-face system to students, which mostly the students have not chosen what they're learning now. They're learning what we have given them. But in the web-based, the digital education process, I see much greater possibilities of expanding the space of learning using different, many different approaches. And also it gives a great opportunity to overcome the assessments that we are having now as I mean, what we are doing now in our assessment process is not a perfect one. But in the digital system, we can really develop new modes of assessment to find out whether our outcomes are going to be realized. So these are some of the issues that came to my mind listening to the presenters and also our learned speakers who speak before me. Think about the paradigm shift and how do we really address the new issues connected with the paradigm shift for a better education. Thank you.
Thank you. Chandra Buldini is the former chairman, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, and founder vice chancellor, Uva University. So we give the floor then to the panelists. Yes. Then I would like to give the floor to our panelists to make their final remarks. First, I would like to invite Dr. The Shanti.
Thank you, Prof. I think we had a very stimulating and interesting discussion. And since the subject itself is timely, I did see certain questions running on the board. One was the relevance of SARC. So, as I said before, I think we have talked much about SARC, but haven't looked at innovative ways of doing things through SARC. And I think when we're looking at this post-industrial revolution and the pandemic, we have an opportunity in SARC itself to build those educational and curriculum systems wherein South Asian students can be more integrated and can benefit from such interactions. The second question was, which I saw was on a hybrid model in terms of bridging the gap. Again, I think referring to my presentation and the brief points I made, we need a hybrid model because we are not really into the postmodern society. We are still transitioning to get to that levels of development. And we do understand in South Asia, we have unequal levels of employment, unequal levels of literacy, and then we also have very uneven levels of technology. So we do have the connectivity issue when you look at the technology itself. And therefore, how do we actually bridge this gap? You know, you have this one level on the social sphere and governance aspects. We are not reached those levels, and we're not on the equal platform. So how do we build that platform, and how do we make this entire experiment, which is evolving now, more inclusive? And that becomes more important because, as rightly pointed out during discussion, if you're getting into this online learning models and you're trying to get a degree just because you need a degree from, say, one of the Ivy League colleges and universities out in the US, but doesn't make itself useful to your context. For example, you're in South Asia, you're in India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. What is it that you want to learn that will help you get a job for the next decade or so? Because we are definitely in the transformation age. We might not go back to the jobs we are doing. Now, if you look at the teaching and the educational sector itself, there's so much of change which has occurred. As Rabia pointed out, that you didn't really imagine that you'll not go back to your university and college the way you used to. And there has been considerable debate within the education systems worldwide that whether the online content is useful, whether we should go back to the traditional teaching mechanisms, or should we move into a hybrid model? And my sense is that I think we need to transition into hybrid, where we make ourselves useful on the online content by making it more interactive, by making it more contextual, and making it more substance-based in terms of building capacities and interest of the youth, rather than having that same curriculum which we had before. So we need to do a little bit of deep siloing of the curriculum and look at the curriculum as it will help empower the youth of tomorrow. So that is, I think, a point which we need to work about more in terms of understanding how we have to design the educational courses in the future. How do we build that technology connect? And how do we maintain the attention and interest of the students when you're into online teaching programs? The third question which I saw was on how do you build that South Asian development models in terms of education and technology. And here again, I think we can have platforms where you have a consortium of South Asian countries coming together to cooperate on education issues, having joint courses between countries, between the teachers and the academia and the think tanks of South Asia. And I think that would be more useful because that will make it more accessible. And last point in terms of inclusiveness, which I still emphasize because we are still not reached that levels of development, we have to first build on a digital culture by which we reach out to those who don't have access to technology to make use of it so that it benefits everybody. I'd like to stop there, Prof. Thanks for the time.
Professor Imitiaz, you can take 3 to 4 minutes for your final words.
Thank you. couple of things, I think. One is we cannot go against technology. Keep that in mind. Humans are homo technologicus. You know, we cannot live without technology. Our hands have been made mainly to create one technology after technology. The cows and dogs, they don't need technology. We are the only beings actually who need technologies. Now, with every technology, there has always been a little bit of resistance. When technology of writing came into being, Socrates was dead against. Keep in mind, if you're familiar with Plato's dialogues, Socrates was dead against the writing because he thought this would make the young people, the youth, lazy because they would not use their brain and their memory and all. And that was the age of oratory. So he was against technology of writing, but that did not stop Western civilization getting into textual civilization. Now, the oldest textual civilization that we have are the Chinese. The Chinese are the oldest one. It was only in the 14th and 15th century we see West coming up. South Asia was even later. You know, we are oral people. We are part of the oral civilization. The whole Arab world is part of the oral civilization. So was South Asia. It was mainly the British who got us into textual civilization in a big way. So we are a latecomer even when it comes to writing. Now, that's a good example, you know, to point out as to how you catch up with the world. Now, as I said, if you know, going back to Sun Tzu and Einstein, every crisis is an opportunity, and this is the best opportunity. National education is a misnomer and is not going to work after the technology that has come up. You can't have a national education policy. It doesn't make any sense because your students would be learning through internet, whether you like it or not. And so the question is, how do we use that? I think Professor Chandra made a good point is, you know, paradigm shift. We need to have a paradigm shift. And the earlier we go into it, earlier we make an exercise to go, you know, from national education to a post-national education, the chances are we'll be making an effort of bringing South Asia to a level which is respectable. As I was giving some figures, in some areas, we are pretty down. We need to gear up. And our silo education has created enmity, which I think this is a good opportunity to overcome that as well. So I'm more into taking up the challenges and thinking out of the box. How can we do that? I understand that the digital divide, I understand people, not all people have laptops and all, but if they don't have laptops, can we create funds for that? Because, you know, the budget that used to be there in the pre-pandemic time has to change in some form, but particularly on the public health, there has to be more effort on public health. If the states of South Asia still think that public health should get less than 2 or 3%, and then, you know, the next pandemic is going to hit you even badly. It's not the only pandemic that we are going to face. There are a series of pandemic coming up, and how well you are prepared. And that is where I'm saying, let's take the challenge. Let's start working. As I said, research is not a problem. Let's start even a small form, whether it's Salma and Rabia, and I see Shanti. I think, you know, people can start interest in research at a South Asian level through the platform that we have. We don't want to change everything overnight, but let us take all these small steps. RCSS could be a good resource point from that point of view. And let's reinvent, redesign South Asia in a meaningful way where we go beyond the geographical location. Now, this may look a little bit naive and this may look too idealistic, but come on, you know, the pandemic has made us quite real that the silo education is not taking us far at all. It is not helping us at all. So I'm more into, you know, thinking out of the box and making the best. And I think this is the best opportunity to work on something new.
Now, Rabia.
Thank you. I would agree with everything my fellow panelists have said, especially Professor Imtiaz in his concluding remarks and his presentation as well. There are just 3 points that I'd like to make that the discussion generated. Number one is about the mindset. I completely understand that parents and students need to be brought at a level where they understand the usefulness of technology and virtual education, especially as we come out of this pandemic. So that is an extremely important thing. It's psychological on so many levels. It's also cultural on so many levels. So to break into a culture which is not used to, the culture that Shanti refers to, the digital culture, which is not prevalent in our societies, is going to be a huge task. We have already started to make a dent in it, because of COVID. But I think the more conscious effort needs to get into getting better enrollments online if our system, goes towards that. There was somebody raised this point about interest and motivation online, and not everybody is tech savvy, which is extremely important. And we've had this experience that some students are slow learners, irrespective of what you do. They're slow learners, in a physical environment, on campus, and they're as well. So I think we need to work on that direction as well. The second point is about hybrid education model. Not all subjects can be taught online completely or purely, because we've seen for engineering, for example, you need labs. For science, you need labs. For medical, you need labs. And for that, you need physical online space to conduct experiments. But subjects like faculties like social sciences probably can go entirely online because lab works are not involved. So we need to make it more, interesting for the students. I was reading somewhere that, professors around the world, are being innovative. They've taken Instagram live sessions, they've taken Facebook live sessions. So probably, meeting students halfway where their interest lies, and we can create more modules where they remain interested because they're familiar with the platform, and we bring the education to them there. So I think some creativity can go into doing that. And lastly, on 3 levels, we are affected with this post-COVID situation. We already are. The first is the individual, like I've talked about, the public sector, the private sector, teachers, students, parents, everybody is affected. So we all are in this together, and that consciousness is developing, is already there. Second is at the level of the state. I think the policy makers need to be more creative. They need to be approached by regular academics and people and institutions like us. We need to, as academics, influence policy. We need to influence regulators to give us some breathing space and not dictate us as to how online virtual education is to be imparted. Because right now what is happening is like each and every step is dictated as if it's something so fragile that if something goes out of line, the system is going to collapse or break. I think some trust and faith needs to be put into academics on their own creativity. And the third level that Shanti also talked about is international. We need to go more inclusive, especially in South Asia. We need to develop an integrated virtual grid where all of us are connected. We have so much common heritage and common experiences. For example, with countering violent extremism, radicalization, democracy, human rights, international law as to how it applies to conflicts in South Asia. There's so much that is overlapping in our experiences that we can offer these joint courses together through our institutions. And RCSS it is the only model through which Chinese, Indians, and Pakistanis were brought together through summer workshop. So I think we need more models like RCSS. We need to replicate this model and come together and share our common experiences. That's the only way forward. So I'd like to stop here and thank you once again for an excellent opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Shironika, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree with all the ideas expressed by the panelists because they answered, I think, almost all the questions. So I do not want to repeat them again, but I would like to highlight here all those things are related to the key points I summarized at the end. That is about capacity development, because to use the digital, somebody asked about the skills needed to use the digital technologies. So capacity development is necessary not only in using the digital technologies, but also how to use them effectively to support learning, because there were questions about how to gain attention and motivate the students, interest them, gain their interest, and also how to address individual differences like slow learners and all these can be addressed by creating effective digital learning environments using good learning designs. So as an educationist, my belief is we should focus more on designing suitable learning experiences using the digital technologies. So I agree with that idea expressed that this challenge has made or provided us with an opportunity, a great opportunity to rethink and reimagine the ways in which we can make our teaching learning experiences more effective and promoting a digital culture. There are issues, but we have to find ways of addressing those issues as well. I agree we can't replace certain things, especially even in education. For example, we train teachers, so the practical teaching has to happen in the face to interacting with children in the real life. So such things you can't replace totally with a digital learning environment. So it has to have this blended or hybrid or whatever terminology is used. So it's only a support, but this is not a new thing. This has been happening throughout. But this sudden interest, this pandemic has provided us this opportunity to rethink and reimagine the value of these technologies, how to integrate them effectively. And there we need this focus on pedagogy. Technology is important, but I think the pedagogy is more important. Really the need is to think about designing carefully the learning environments, and also to promote the digital education, you need the leadership. So there, the digital education leadership is very important to fulfill all these needs that we all been talking about. Thank you very much.